Colleague, can I have the ability to share screen so that we can play the video for the opening message?
Wherever you may be, and to welcome you to this session on resource mobilization for sustainable forest management and forest restoration. We are going to have an opening session. And for the opening session, we have two recorded messages from the director of the United Nations Forum on Forests first, and we also have the second from the Deputy Director General of INBAR. So Jan, if you are ready with the first one.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to open today's parallel session. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to open today's parallel session on strengthening resource mobilization for sustainable forest management and forest restoration on behalf of the UN Forum on Forest Secretariat. We are honored to participate in the second Bamboo and Rattan Congress and would like to thank our partners at the International Bamboo and Rattan Organization, INBAR, for the kind invitation. The theme of this Congress, Nature-Based Solution for Sustainable Development, is very timely as forests, bamboo, and rattan offer solutions to many of the global challenges we face today. There is growing awareness that healthy natural ecosystems are vital to protect and sustain people and the planet. Yet, while global deforestation rates have slowed, in the last decade we have continued to lose 4.7 million hectares of forest per year. Recognizing the importance of forests for sustainable development, in 2017, the UN General Assembly adopted the first UN Strategic Plan for Forests 2030. The plan features a set of 6 global forest goals and 26 associated targets. This includes ambitious target to increase forest area by 3% worldwide and to eradicate extreme poverty for all forest-dependent people by 2030. Mobilizing significantly increased financial resources to sustainably manage forests and to restore degraded forest landscape is critical for the implementation of the strategic plan and the global forest goals. Earlier this year, the World Forest Congress called for investment in forests and landscape restoration to be at least tripled by 2030 in order to achieve global commitment and meet internationally agreed goals and targets. Ladies and gentlemen, securing sufficient financing for sustainable forest management has been a long-standing challenge for countries around the world. The outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on the global economy and supply chains further exacerbated this challenge. At the same time, access to existing sources of financing from multilateral funding institutions has continued to be a challenge. To address these challenges, the UNFF Global Forest Financing Facilitation Network (G2FN) was established in 2015. The network assists countries to mobilize financing for forests and to contribute to the achievements of the global forest goals. The GFFN is one of the key components of the International Arrangement on Forests. Since its establishment, the GFFN has worked with 34 countries and 3 sub-regions to design national and regional forest financing strategies and to develop projects proposals for multilateral funding institutions. So far, capacity development support has been completed in 19 countries and 1 sub-region, and support is still ongoing in 15 countries and 2 sub-regions. To date, 7 project concept notes with a value of 446 million have been endorsed by the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, and the Green Climate Fund, GCF. 5 countries have already catalyzed a total of $64.35 million following the support provided by the respective government, GFFN, and other agencies. With support from the select accredited entities, the remaining project concept notes are currently being developed into full project proposal and subsequent submission to request funding. In addition, 6 countries and 1 sub-region have developed national or regional forest financing strategies. Over 1,000 national experts have been trained in how to mobilize financial resources from domestic and international sources. The network also launched an online clearinghouse last year, which provides useful data on forest financing opportunities, learning materials, and good practices. Distinguished participants, through our work on GFFN, we have observed 3 main challenges. First, due to the high cost and long time span of the full project proposal development process, resource mobilization from multilateral financing sources requires a long time to complete. Second, the alignment of the project concept note preparation with the priorities, pipeline, and budget cycle of the accredited entities such as Global Environmental Fund and the Green Climate Fund remains a major constraint. Third, limited or weak capacity in some countries and lack of enabling environment and institutional arrangements for attracting funding have also been major obstacles for realizing of full potential of the GFFN. In addressing these challenges, we have worked to ensure early engagement of accredited entities and have explored potential institutional arrangement or special communication channels with accredited entities. We strive to enhance national capacity through on-the-job training during development of the project concept and financing strategy. We emphasize the importance of cross-sectoral and multi-sectoral coordination through the process. We also seek opportunities like today's event to solicit ideas from experts on how we can improve collaboration, tackle challenges, and accelerate mobilization of forest financing. During this event, you will learn more about the GFFN, governments, and INBAR's experience on resource mobilization through the presentation from our distinguished panelists. Today's event is an opportunity to review the performance of the GFFN and the approaches we have taken in advancing its work and explore areas for improvement of the GFFN work to scale up forest financing. We hope that this event will also generate interest in nature-based solutions and in the ways and means to finance projects that improve the health and resilience of people and planet now and in the future. I now have the honor to introduce our session moderator, Mr. Peter Gondo. Peter is UNFF's Inter-Regional Advisor and he is responsible for providing advisory and technical support on the development of the national forest programs, national forest financing strategies, and strengthening the capacity to mobilize forest finance from multilateral and other sources. He is a forester with over 30 years of experience, and before joining the United Nations, he worked for the Forestry Commission in Zimbabwe. You could not be in more able hands. Peter, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Juliet, and for those introductory remarks. It is now my pleasure to introduce Professor Weming Liu, who is the Deputy Director General of INBAR, to give his opening remarks. So this will be through a pre-recorded message as well, so please go ahead and play the message.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to address all of you at this important technical session on strengthening resources mobilization for sustainable forest management and forest restoration at the second Global Bamboo and Rattan Congress. Bamboo and rattan are vital resources for sustenance, livelihoods, the economy, and environment. With bamboo covering over 35 million hectares of tropical and subtropical land in the world. Bamboo has qualities that make it ideal for restoring degraded lands. It is able to thrive and grow on degraded slopes where many plants cannot grow. Its underground rhythms and its dense root systems help stabilize soil, reduce erosions, and increase water recharge. As one of the fast-growing plants in the earth, it can also revegetate and restore the productivity of degraded land in a short time. For these reasons and more, many countries are beginning to use bamboo for restorations, like China, Colombia, and Ethiopia. Bamboo reaches maturity in 3 to 5 years. It produces new shoots or poles that can be harvested annually, make it a sustainable and reliable alternative to many energy-intensive materials. Now, innovations in technology have allowed it to be developed into more than 10,000 products and applications with a wide variety of uses. INBAR, together with its donors, including the governments of Canada, China, Germany through the GRZ, the Netherlands, Spain through the Spanish Cooperation Agency, the EU, as well as the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the World Bank, have demonstrated in the last 25 years that investment in the bamboo and rattan sector is truly worth it. However, organizations like INBAR, despite being home to high-level technical expertise, cannot drive the sector alone due to our limited financial resources. Accordingly, the United Nations Forum on Forests has organized this session to identify the priorities of key donors looking to support sustainable development, and find ways to turn sustainable management and landscape restoration into primary issues for them too, while also outlining feasible mechanisms for resource mobilizations. Ultimately, our robust cooperation paired with decisive actions will be essential to elaborate the role of bamboo and rattan as nature-based solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish everyone a productive session. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for the welcoming remarks that we have received. And once again, I would like to welcome all participants to this session. As the world is trying to move on from the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the role of forests in contributing to a green recovery and to building back better cannot be overemphasized. The contribution of sustainable forest management and the restoration of forests is central to achieving a green recovery and a resilient recovery path. In this session, which is under the theme on improving resource mobilization for sustainable forest management and forest restoration, we are lucky to have 4 distinguished panelists who are going to share with us some of the experiences that they have had in resource mobilization, as well as in the inclusion of bamboo and rattan in sustainable forest management and forest landscape restoration. We hope that these exchanges of our experiences will enrich us, especially in coming up with new and innovative ideas of how we can strengthen our cooperation in the future and how we can increase resource mobilization. We have a distinguished panel of 4 who are going to share their experiences with us. Essentially, the panelists are going to help us to achieve our 3 main objectives for this session, which are mainly to explore the concrete measures to support countries in implementing the United Nations Strategic Plan for Forests through improved resource mobilization. We'll also share the work of the GFFN in assisting member states of the United Nations Forum on Forests in mobilizing resources. And finally, we'll look at opportunities and synergies for collaboration, not only with INBAR, but with other international partners and organizations for resource mobilization for sustainable forest management. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Yan Lang, who is a program officer with the United Nations Forum on Forest Secretariat. She has a wide range of experience in forest management, including international policy negotiation, capacity building, and in forest financing. Currently, Ms. Yan Lang is supporting several countries in developing projects to mobilize financing for forests. She has also played a leading role in the establishment of the United Nations Forum on Forest Clearinghouse website on forest financing, which features several databases on forest finance. She also supports substantive work for policy discussion and strategic partnerships at the UNFF Secretariat. Over to you, Yan.
Thank you, Mr. Facilitator. Good morning, good afternoon to dear participants and panelists who join us today. Please first allow me to pull up my presentation. It's my pleasure to join all of you today. My presentation will be about introducing the GFFN, which is Global Forest Financing Facilitation Network. I hope through my introduction, you will have a better understanding of how we are working on the ground to support countries to mobilize financing, and therefore also provide us more input and suggestions on how to improve our work going forward. As you heard previously from our director, the GFFN was established in 2015 by the UNFF. its primary function was to facilitate access and effective use of funding for forests. Now, the UN Strategic Plan for Forests identified 4 priorities for the G3FN. They are: first, promote and assist countries in designing of their national forest financing strategy. Second, assist countries in mobilizing financial resources from existing and emerging sources, in particular, multilateral financing source. Third, serve as a clearinghouse and tool for sharing lessons learned and best practices on forest financing. And eventually, all of the actions will aim to contribute to achievement of the global forest goal and targets, which is also one of the priority of the G3FN. Now, how in actual work are we undertaking those priorities? Our work are primarily focusing on 2 areas. The first one is provide country support. The second is provide information on forest financing, which I will come later. Now I want to introduce a little bit more about how we support country in the country support. We do this through a few major areas of work. We support countries to develop bankable project proposals, to design their national forest financing strategies. And in this connection, when countries have outdated national forest program or action plan, we also update them to ensure the policy are in place for the strategy of financing to be developed. And through the whole process, we ensure the capacity building pillar is withheld to support the country, so that in the future, they can also have the capacity to undertake mobilizing financing opportunities by themselves. All the eligible countries can submit official requests to the UNFF Secretariat to request such support. As long as the member states are developing countries and countries with economic transactions, they can request from our support. Once we start providing support to a country, these are the technical approach we are going to adopt. First, we will prepare an analytical background study for the country. This study will identify the key issues, challenges, and opportunities regarding forest resource and forest financing. Also climate change and other matters that forests will contribute to. Well, this analytical study is ready. We considered it as a tool to bring all the stakeholders on one stage to understand really the situation in the country. So we can continue the support by engaging different partners through the whole process of developing national forest financing strategy and project proposal. We would organize tailor-made capacity building workshop for the country to familiarize them with tools and ways to develop project proposal and national forest financing strategy. During the workshop, we make sure different stakeholders that are related to financing and forests are engaged. Such sector or stakeholders could include other sectors such as the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Rural Development, Environment, all that sector that can potentially contribute to the whole process. And also we will include stakeholders from civil society and financial institutions. We bring them all at once to discuss on the topic and familiarize them with the opportunity to mobilize finance for forests. once the capacity building workshop is organized, we start to work with the national expert together draft the project concept note and national forest financing strategy. After the drafting process, we will convene another meeting, bring all the stakeholders again to validate, provide comments to improve the quality of the output documents. Throughout the process, we really emphasize a lot on raising awareness of financing opportunities and also constantly providing technical advisory service to the country. The government, through our support, will constantly engaging with major partners that will involve in the whole mobilizing financing process. Through this process, we hope to make sure the country can establish some stable partnership to jointly take action to mobilize financing. At the end, we also make sure all the documents produced for together jointly with the government has the country ownership and engaged the stakeholder. That's their own document. We are just supporting them to develop what they want envisioned to be developed. We just there for them to provide the technical support necessary. In addition, through our work, we establish some partnership with other international entities. So when we provide to the countries, we bring up the resources and technical advice. We can also seek from all of our partners. We bring them all to the countries. This can include, for example, we have partnered with financing institutions, like GEF and GCF, multilateral financing institutions, World Bank or Regional Development Bank, and others alike. We can have the more first-hand information about financing opportunity, and we provide advice to the country accordingly. Other partners also include accredited entity, collaborative partnership on forests, which are 15 international organizations work on forest-related issues, and some of them are accredited entity of the GEF or GCF. So we work very closely throughout the support jointly with this entity to support the country to provide project development support. We also have, for example, MOU with some entities such as UNCCD. In that sense, when countries work on financing issues for forest and land management specific topic, we can bring them also as part of the technical support team to jointly provide such support to the country. Now, how have we done so far? Since our establishment in 2015, we have already completed support in 18 countries. Now, the support is ongoing in 16 countries and 3 sub-regions. Through this support, as you also heard from our director, we have already 7 project concept notes endorsed by the multilateral agency. We have some more countries already received funding through this joint efforts of us, the government, and other agencies. We also have more project concept notes in the pipeline, still yet to be fully developed with the joint force of entities. We also have developed 6 national forest financing strategy and 1 regional forest financing strategy. In the process, there are over 1,000 experts already trained on how to mobilize financing for forests. Throughout these years, in particular in the area of project concept note development, we've experienced what are the main challenges in this area of work? Here is what we found. The first one, weak project development capacity within a country, in particular countries that are least developed. They normally have low capacity in terms of forest department or division in general. So one officer has to do multiple tasks. There perhaps no substantive officer very familiar with the topic of mobilizing financing through multilateral funding mechanism. There are also the second challenge we find, expensive and long project proposal development process. It is typical for a project concept note to be developed within 1 year or 1.5 year period. But then once the project concept note is developed, it could take at least 2 to 5 years for a project concept note to develop into a full project proposal. Only when the full project proposal is submitted to the GEF or GCF or other multilateral entities, they can be considered for receiving funding. That means a country can really think of a long time trajectory until we can receive the funding. And in this long time period, a lot can happen. The government could change their priority, and the other partners who are engaged may not continue to be interested, or also purely because there are no resource to undertake the necessary activity for this future project proposal. Sometimes the support will end up stopped some way, but we do always try our best to make sure that the support we provide can go through the longer process for the full project proposal. Of all the challenge, we think aligning the project development process with the accredited entity pipeline is the most challenging activities. The accredited entities have a lot of competing project concept notes in their pocket. Sometimes first one are not the most prioritized one. And also because of budget issue, that they not necessarily have the full budget or commit to going through the whole process. We understand that's the challenge for the accredited entity as well. They are also struggling. So we want to see how we can help them and also help ourselves to support government better in this way, to align better, to make sure the whole project proposal support can be completed. There are also a few other challenges like limited enabling environment, institutional competition, and yes, a few national accredited entities. These are the challenge within the national level itself. We sometimes see in the process of project development, the policy in place or institutional arrangement in place does not really enable the first department to fully take advantage of the useful multilateral financing, where they have to compete with other sectors, which are such as energy, agriculture, rural development, which to some extent intensive. They are more prioritized by certain policy or government. So it's a challenge for forestry in general. And for many accredited entities, nowadays they give priority for national accredited entity to have access to financing. But in particular to developing countries, they don't really necessarily have much of accredited entity. It's a long process for a national entity to get accredited. But of course, in the end, they will get more return. But as of the current situation, we still see there is a gap that more accredited entities need to be to secure this ability to work with the government themselves to develop projects. We have done some work to address these challenges we experienced. We try to engage accredited entity very early in the whole process of project development. We also emphasize on capacity building to address the national challenge. Also, cross-sectoral coordination and partnership are among our actions. With all of that, the challenge remains. To some extent, it can be addressed, but still much challenge remains. So, for example, today we also want to bring up this topic and discuss with experts here, with all of you and our panelists, how we can improve more on this area of work, how we can support country more in terms of mobilizing financing. That's all. More of my message about our action on provide support to the countries. Now I want to introduce a little bit on our second area of work, providing information on forest financing. This is mainly done by a website called Clearinghouse on Forest Financing. We launched this website last year in April. This is basically designed to be a one-stop shop for all the information on forest financing. Currently, it contains 3 main databases: forest financing opportunities, learning material, good practice, and lessons learned. As you see on the screen, this is a screenshot of our website. We do invite you, if you can see also the URL down below, we do invite you to explore the website and provide us feedback on how to improve the usability of this website. Once you go into the website, I take the first database. For example, here, I took a screenshot of the database. This one is the database on forest financing opportunities. Now, currently, it contains more than 100 profiles of entities or programs that provide financing for forests. On the left side of the website, you have different filters. Users can choose what are the topics and what kind of financing source or what kind of financing mechanisms they are interested in. After choosing the filter, you can come out with result of certain financing opportunities that meet the requirement and need of the user. There are 2 more other databases also about forest financing. We hope our participants and experts here today will have some opportunity to explore this. This is mainly about our work, both on the project concept, project country support part, and also our information part. I thank you very much for your attention. I hope the presentation will help for the discussion we'll have later today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jan. Let me just kindly ask the participants if they have questions or comments to hold them until we have received presentations from all our panelists. And then we will have time to have those clarified. It is now my pleasure to introduce our next panelist and speaker, Mr. Guoyuf, who is the Director of the Division for UNFF Affairs of the International Cooperation Center of the National Forestry and Grassland Administration of China. He joined the then Minister of Forestry, in 2018. In 1995, the ministry has since been restructured to this new title since 2018. With his rich experience in international cooperation, he has been engaged in the implementation of the UNCCD Ramsar Convention, CITES, the UN Forest Instrument, as well as the management of dozens of bilateral projects in cooperation with various governments, including Germany, Australia, and the Netherlands. He was also responsible for cooperation with international NGOs, including WWF, IUCN, TNC, and the World Conservation Society before he took on his current post. So he's really experienced, and we look forward to hearing from him. Mr. Guo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to attend this parallel session of the second Global Bamboo and Rattan Congress. The Chinese government attaches great importance to the implementation of the United Nations Forest Instrument since it was adopted in 2007, and as well as the UN SPF since its adoption in 2017. And we have undertaken various measures to implement the UNFI. So today I will share with you very briefly the measures China has taken from the following 6 aspects, especially the forest financing or financial measures, since it is the main subject for discussion for today's parallel session. So first, about the legislation improvement. There are 7 laws that are directly related to forestry and grassland administration in China. And all of them were revised since their promulgation in the early 1980s or early 2000, except for the wetland conservation law, which was promulgated last year. And among these 7 laws, the most important one is the forest law. It was revised in 2020, and under the new revision, there is a special chapter dedicated to forest management, which requires the forest management plans to be implemented, to be developed and implemented by the state-owned forest farms. This is a very significant boost to the development of the sustainable forest management in China. In terms of national plans, as you may know that every 5 years, the Chinese government will formulate a 5-year plan for national economic and social development as a guidance for the overall development of for all sectors. So based on this 5-year plan, the NFGA also formulate a 5-year plan for the forestry and grassland sector. And under this 5-year plan, more specific plans are formulated. For example, within the 14th 5-year plan for grassland, for forestry and grassland, we have developed the plans for land greening, natural forest protection and rehabilitation, forest land protection utilization, seedlings, forest industries, and etc. As you can see, some of the plans cover the period of 15 years rather than just 5 years. And in order to enhance forest governance, the Chinese government recently established the Forest Chief Scheme. Based on this scheme, the heads of the government from the provincial level down to the township level will be appointed as the forest chiefs with the provincial governor as the general forest chief. The responsibility for forest management and protection no longer just rests with the forest sector only, but with the whole government, which will coordinate the actions of all relevant departments to make concerted efforts for the management of forest resources. In terms of science and technology, China has boosted the development of scientific researches and extension of advanced technologies in the field of forestry through the formulation and implementation of 5-year plans and associated plans. We also established China's forest certification system, which covers forest management and chain of custody, and was mutually recognized with PFC in 2014. As an innovative measure, the National Forest and Forestry and Grassland Administration has established 17 pilot sites for UNFI implementation since 2012, which were selected based on the different natural conditions and management models across China. Some of which, for example, those from Zhejiang and Fujian provinces, which are in the south of China, are focusing their efforts also on bamboo and rattan management. The objectives for the development of pilot sites are to enhance the capacity building for implementing UNFI, establish an international and domestic sustainable forest management experience sharing platform, introduce, digest, and absorb international experiences, and to summarize and improve policies, technical models on sustainable forest management. With regard to the forest financing, as we all know that forest financing are extremely important for promoting the sustainable forest management. And the Chinese government has adopted various measures and policies to increase the investment in the forest sector. This histogram shows the growing investment in forestry in the past 14 years, as well as the changes of the share of government input. The main sources for forest financing include the government funding, which include the national government's funding and local government funding, the domestic loans, including commercial banks and non-commercial banks, foreign investment, including foreign loans and some grant projects. And also we have the funds raised by the operators themselves, and also some other sources for funding. As we can see from this this chart, the government funding takes up the biggest share among the total forest funding. And in the year 2020, the total investment was 72.57 billion, and of which the government funding accounted for over 60%. Well, you can see from this chart that the foreign investment takes a very limited share among the total investment, but actually they are playing a very important role in the early 1980s through the early 2000s. when China receives a large amount of foreign aid and the soft loans from multilateral organizations. The investment of China's funding for forestry goes to three main areas. The biggest share goes to the ecological rehabilitation, which is over 51% in 2020. The second area is forest service and administration, which include also the infrastructure. And the third area is forest product manufacturing and processing. China doesn't have a specific strategy for forest financing, but we have some fundamental policies which have very big impact on forest financing. One of which is the ecological civilization system development. This is an overall mechanism or system which place emphasis on ecological conservation and rehabilitation. As a result, the government provides enormous funding to subsidize afforestation, fine seeds, forest protection and management, and forestry machinery. Another important policy is the establishment of ecological benefit compensation system, because the forests in China are divided into two categories, commercial forests and ecological forests, or forests for public welfare. Since timber production is not allowed for ecological forests, the government at different levels provide funds as compensation for these forests. The total area of ecological forests takes up 60% of the total forest area in China. So this table shows the criteria of the central government subsidies to different forest activities based on the different types and ownership. For example, the compensation for private forests is higher than that of the state-owned forests. The Chinese government also formulated and many supporting policies to diversify financing sources. For instance, the NFGA worked with the development banks to provide non-commercial loans for establishing timber reserve forests for a period of 30 to 40 years. And the interest rate was subsidized. The government provide interest discount for helping the projects which are focusing on afforestation and reforestation. We also established a forest insurance system, which covers 57% of total forest area in China, and nearly 90% of the insurance fee was subsidized by the government. The NFGA also issued documents jointly with the National Development and Reform Commission and the Ministry of Finance for the development of PPP projects in the forest sector to diversify the investment in forestry. Despite the great efforts made, there are still big gaps in the funding for sustainable forestry management, especially those from social and private sources due to the long cycle of forest production. So in order to increase the financing in forests and diversify the funding sources, the Chinese government has formulated a number of new policies. And for example, the ecological product value realization mechanism which is designed to be established basically in 2025 and completed by 2035, will ensure that the protectors of the natural resources are benefited, and that the users are charged and the destroyers are punished and fined. And it will also encourage the trading of rights and interests related to ecological resources and the development of green financing. And the carbon emission emission right trading will be another opportunity for absorbing financing into the forestry sector. And the regulations with regard to the carbon emission trade is still under development, but we believe that after the regulation is approved, we can see large opportunities for financing into the forestry sector. And besides, the State Council also issued a document to support and encourage social funding in ecological protection and rehabilitation. And if this document is fully implemented, we believe more and more private investment will be absorbed into sustainable forest management. So that's all for my information. I hope that the information I shared could be of some reference to the countries who are also seeking increasing their forest financing in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that interesting presentation. I'm sure we'll have a lot to discuss on this, especially the new and innovative approaches. Thank you very much. It is now my pleasure to introduce the next speaker, Ms. Patricia Masupai. She's the Deputy Director of Forestry in the Forestry Department of Malawi. She has facilitated community-based forest management projects and coordinated both local and donor-funded projects, as well as supporting formal and informal training activities in the forestry sector, and as well as coordinating marketing and licensing of trade in forest goods and services, among other activities. The presentation from Patricia is pre-recorded, so I would like to invite Jan to play the message. Thank you. Yeah. Can we have the message from Patricia Masupai?
Hi, Peter. I asked whether our colleague, okay, I think they can play.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Masupai from Malawi. I work with the Department of Forestry. I'm a Deputy Director. I'm presenting on resource mobilization for sustainable forest management in Malawi and the status of bamboos in the country. As a matter of introduction, Malawi recognizes the contribution of forests and trees in the areas of socioeconomic and environmental benefits. Forests support agriculture, which is the main foreign earner and the engine for economic growth in Malawi through different areas such as the control of soil erosion, And also forests support human needs in the areas of provision of shelter, food, and fiber. To a greater extent, forests also provide energy to the extent that about 97% of households in Malawi rely on illegal and unsustainable charcoal and firewood, and this is resulting into high levels of degradation and deforestation. In terms of financing for sustainable forest management, the Department of Forestry, which is mandated to manage forest resources in the country, gets funding from Treasury, that is Ministry of Finance. However, this funding is very, very low, almost always. But there are some other sources of funding that the department gets to supplement this low funding from Treasury. Examples of such other sources of funding include the Forest Development and Management Fund. This fund is provided for in the Forest Act, and it works in a way that all revenues that are collected by the Department of Forestry, the department gets 80% of such to use for implementation of its planned activities in terms of forest development, management, and conservation. And 20% goes to Ministry of Finance, that is Treasury. And the revenues into the fund come from different sources, including largely from the sales of forest products and services. And also the government collects revenue or gets some resources from concession agreements. The Department of Forestry has entered into agreements with some industrial companies which are into timber production, such as Liply. And these companies do pay concession fees and also for the wood itself. And this money also goes into the fund for use by the department. The private sector is also assisting the Department of Forestry through donations of cash or in kind. And recently the department introduced an initiative called Adopt a Forest Approach. Through this approach, the private sector is encouraged to adopt a specific forest area which it manages through donations, either cash or in kind. And currently there are two banks, the National Bank of Malawi and also the First Capital Bank, that have so far come on the scene and have adopted some forest areas through this approach and are assisting the department in managing such forests. The department is also in partnerships with and among different stakeholders, including civil society organizations, local communities, and government departments. Together, they manage the forest resources in the different areas within the country. And also, there are some donor-funded projects that the government is benefiting from. For example, the Malawi Watershed Improvement Services Project, which is funded by the World Bank. But through the same process, the UNFF, through the Global Forest Financing Facilitation Network, assisted the Department of Forestry in capacity building and project design of bankable project proposals to be submitted to Green Climate Fund. This process is currently ongoing, and the department is working with IUCN as an accredited entity to develop a full proposal to be submitted to GCF. What is the status and use of bamboo in Malawi? Bamboo is a basic raw material with numerous traditional uses. It is highly suitable for handcrafts such as mats, baskets, trays, etc. And it is a very good source of income through the sale of its products. That is in the rural setup, in the local communities, and it is assisting in their livelihoods. It can be used as firewood and charcoal briquettes for domestic use for household cooking, thereby preventing deforestation, which comes as a result of the illegal charcoal production. And bamboo shoots are edible in some areas, while the foliage can be used as animal fodder. And since bamboo grows faster than any other woody plant, even under stressed conditions, it is good for soil erosion control, rehabilitation of degraded sites, and biomass production. As such, agriculture is assisted. And to continue with the status of bamboos, bamboo is commonly found growing in a wide range of sites and altitudes in Malawi. And most of this bamboo is common in protected forests, and it is largely overexploited as its extraction is not controlled in as much as the control of tree felling is done. And therefore, it can be said that in general, bamboo, which is the fastest growing plant in the world, has been ignored in Malawi. So in 2016, the country of Malawi launched the National Charcoal Strategy, which recognizes bamboo as a feedstock for charcoal production. And now, or currently, there is ever-increasing interventions in environmental rectification, which includes bamboo growing. And bamboo is being planted at large scale, mainly by government through projects such as the Shire River Basin Management Program, which is funded by the World Bank, tobacco companies through their farmers, and NGOs. Currently, the Agriculture Diversification Program donated about 1 million seedlings of bamboo to the Department of Forestry, which were distributed to smallholder farmers to plant in their localities. And also through the Afro 100 initiative, the government of Malawi pledged to restore 4.5 million hectares of degraded landscape. Out of these 150,000 hectares, out of these 150,000 hectares will be planted to bamboos through various initiatives. And what is the consideration of bamboos at policy level? Recently, the government of Malawi launched a medium implementation plan called the Malawi 2063, which recognizes the need for a green economy through reforestation and agroforestation. And during the launch of this MIP by the president, it was mentioned that bamboo is a strategic plant to help mitigate against deforestation and hence climate change. And therefore, from this MIP, it is clearly shown that at policy level, bamboo has been considered as an important item or aspect to help in climate change and even on issues of averting deforestation. So the medium implementation plan has the broad purpose of supporting a green and resilient economic transformation in view of creating decent jobs, mostly for the youth, based on sound democratic and economic governance systems and on empowered human capital. So bamboo is being considered central in making this broad economic ambition a reality, in which case the youth can be encouraged or are to be encouraged to include bamboo growing in different areas within the country. However, there are some challenges in terms of bamboos, as already stated that the local bamboos have been generally ignored, but there are new varieties of bamboos that are coming to the country and have started being promoted. So one of the major challenges is coordination of various intervention efforts has been a big challenge. And this has led to an unscrupulous introduction of species that are very new to the country's environment, whose invasiveness is not known. So there is need really to generate as much information as possible, as much data as possible, in as far as the promotion of bamboo growing is concerned, so that the issues of invasiveness and the other negative impacts in the environment are considered. And there is also another challenge of sourcing of planting materials because these materials are very expensive and they lack authenticity due to identification challenges. It becomes a problem to identify the authenticity of the materials because of the expensiveness. The Department of Forestry cannot manage to do this noble task because of lack of financial resources. And as such, there are some recommendations to the same. One of the major recommendations is that the Forest Research Institute of Malawi, which is the research hub for all forestry and forestry-related issues in the country, is geared towards conducting research in different aspects of bamboo growing, but it is constrained by financial resources. And as such, it is recommended that the government should be aggressive or vigilant in mobilizing resources, either through projects or from the private sector, to undertake intensive research whose data will assist in making informed decisions as far as bamboo growing is concerned. And again, alongside research, promotion of bamboos should be intensified based on the information generated, so that they are able to address or supplement the demands that wood or trees are failing to meet, such as fuel wood, as already alluded to, that most of the households rely on firewood and illegally produced charcoal. But in the National Charcoal Strategy, bamboos are considered a feedstock, in which case now the country can be flooded with legal charcoal produced from bamboos, thereby averting or addressing the issues of illegal tree cutting, and that is deforestation and forest degradation, and therefore climate change. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for that presentation. We now go for our final panelist. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Boya de la Pena Escado. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. My apologies if I didn't. Boya is responsible for INBAR's global policies and for the engagement and partnerships with international policy-focused agencies, including the 3 Rio Conventions, that is UNCCD, climate change, and CBD, as well as UN agencies and environmental-focused multilateral organizations. In addition, he supports programs and projects in Latin America and the Caribbean for inclusion of bamboo and rattan in regional and national strategic policies. Previously, he served as a policy advisor of Spain to the United Nations in New York. Mr. Boya, the floor is yours. You are muted. May you please unmute your mic? Can you please, can you help unmute Mr. Boya? Right, you can go.
How to unmute?
Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Gondo. And also I would like to start by thanking the Secretariat of the United Nations Forum on Forests for the invitation to participate in your session today at our Bamboo and Rattan Congress. I'd like to also say, send greetings to the speakers, to Mrs. Juliette Biao and also to Mrs. Lang Yan, whom I knew in 2018 when I visited the Secretariat of the UN Forum on Forest. And yes, today we have, I think, all the presentations. I think Mr. Guo Yufu, also the director of of the International Cooperation of NFGA, and Mrs. Patricia Evidence for her great presentation about the Malawi progress on the bamboo sector. So my presentation today will cover the investments in sustainable management and landscape restoration of bamboo forest, how INBAR works with its partners, with its donors and partners on the ground to raise resources, and also to implement our strategic plan. Firstly, it's important to understand what are the SDGs where INBAR works. INBAR works in 7 SDGs, particularly guided by our 2015-2030 strategy plan. Our priority is to work with countries to focus on the use of bamboo and rattan as a strategic resource to support sustainable development and the green economic plans. The strategy and performance contributes directly to at least 7 SDGs. Those are the ones which we mainly promote and work on. SDG 1, which is end poverty in all its forms. SDG 7, to provide affordable, sustainable, and reliable modern energy services for all. SDG 11, access to adequate and affordable housing. SDG 12, efficient use of natural resources. Of course, SDG 13, to address climate change. And SDG 15, protect and restore terrestrial ecosystems. And lastly, and most importantly, SDG 17, partnerships for achieving the goals. So under these SDGs, INBAR works with its main donors. We have more donors, but mainly in the last decade, we have been working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Government of the Netherlands to implement projects in East Africa. Of course, our most important donor, together with the Government of China, is the International Fund for Agricultural Development, which are funding our projects in Africa and Latin America. Also, in the last decade, a very important donor, the Spanish cooperation in Latin America and more recently in Africa also. Previously, also the European Commission has funded several projects of INBAR in Africa and Asia. Of course, the government of China as our host country through the National Forestry and Grassland Administration is our biggest donor, and the Global Environmental Facility, which I will mention now some of the projects that these donors are financing on the field. It is important to know that bamboo cuts across many sectors. Therefore, we try to integrate bamboo into many of them to create models that can be replicated within the global bamboo value chains development to provide value addition. Therefore, to raise resources, we try to integrate bamboo and rattan, sorry, one second, into silvipasture development, poverty alleviation initiatives, agriculture and agroforestry, desertification, and food security, among others. So we work with governments and donors to try to integrate bamboo into their legislative and policy environments, also to raise public awareness, also to enhance scientific research, technical capacity building, create the demonstration models and enabling frameworks which can be used to replicate across different regions and countries. Now, I will try to explain how this translates into generating resources on the ground. Now, for instance, this is one of the projects financed by the Global Environmental Facility recently, and this is a seed project. We call it seed project because what we are trying is to create the basis to develop the bamboo value chains. To develop the bamboo value chains in this specific case in Cameroon. So this project evaluates the potential of bamboo and other native non-timber forest products to restore degraded lands in Cameroon. This is one of the several projects that the Global Environmental Facility. Can you? Please. No, that the presentation is moving. I'm not touching anything, but anyway. So this is one of the projects that is financed by this initiative, the Restoration Initiative by the GEF, and the overall objective is to contribute to the Bond Challenge and the New York Declaration on Forests to restore degraded lands in Cameroon. Another objective of the project is to use bamboo as a tool for restoring degraded land and to enhance agricultural productivity while conserving biodiversity. We use it as a seed to provide a source of income for rural communities, also to provide the tool that bamboo has as a carbon sink and as means to raise the groundwater table across degraded landscapes in Cameroon. So we are trying to create the basis to improve the political engagement of the Cameroonian government in regards to the restoration of forest lands and sustainable land management using bamboo. We also are trying to evaluate the potential of land restoration in Cameroon using native bamboo species, in this case Bambusa vulgaris and other indigenous non-timber forest products, to promote the development of value chains for these species to support biodiversity conservation, sustainable livelihoods, and carbon storage. We are also trying to reinforce reinforce institutional capacity and financing mechanisms for large-scale land restoration of forest landscapes in project sites across Cameroon, to improve the knowledge of best practices in land restoration and to follow up evaluations among the project participants. We believe this project will be just the beginning to generate additional resources in Cameroon, not only in Cameroon, but in Central Africa under the restoration initiative. Another good example of how INBAR generates resources in sustainable management and restoration activities is our Dutch Sino East Africa Bamboo Development Program in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda. This is financed by the government of the Netherlands. The general objective of this program is to enhance climate change mitigation and adaptation benefits by developing inclusive and sustainable industrial and small and medium-sized enterprises in the bamboo value chains to enhance livelihood opportunities, food security, and environment management in East Africa. This is a key example of trilateral cooperation and a crucial part of INBAR's work towards UN SDG 17, Partnerships for Sustainable Development. Bamboo plantations are strategically included in the Ethiopian Prime Minister-led Green Legacy Program. In Kenya and Uganda, bamboo restoration are being mainstreamed into government and private sector programs by developing policies and strategies specific to bamboo. We also try to integrate other countries into this project, like Madagascar, for instance, which has established a plan to establish 50,000 hectares of rehabilitation of land in their bamboo policy. Now, this project is expected to provide direct benefits to some 28,000 people, as well as to restore 5,000 hectares of degraded lands with bamboo, to enhance sustainable management practices for 5,000 hectares of bamboo plantations and farms. The target groups include smallholder farmers, women, youth, small to medium enterprises, and larger industries. This project started in 2016, the phase 1. Now we are in phase 2. From 2016 to 2019, the phase 1 was implemented. Now we are in phase 2 from 2020 to 2023. Now, some of the project achievements include the conduction of national bamboo resource assessments for Ethiopia, Kenya, and Uganda using GIS remote sensing technology, assessing market conditions for the 3 countries also in the bamboo sector, building capacity and transferring technologies for East Africa bamboo producers. We are also providing training funded by the China's Ministry of Commerce on bamboo handicrafts creation, furniture, and handicraft processing, and bamboo industrial development. We have developed technical guidelines on bamboo products and processing, raise awareness of bamboo products markets potential among households, public sector procurement programs, and businesses. This project, I want to give a brief overview of the beneficiaries of this project. This project has at least 5,000 beneficiaries. We have provided 60 trainings on bamboo resource management in the 3 years. In 3 years, we have rehabilitated 1,500 degraded bamboo forests and are now under sustainable management, and restore 1,200 hectares. In addition, just to conclude this part, This project has created 18 large-scale nurseries, which has produced more than 2 million plants. Another project in another region that also is integrated into sustainable management and restoration initiatives is the Bamboo Sonia project in the Amazonia, in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. The project is implemented since 2019 until 2023 and focuses on taking advantage on the potential of bamboo as a natural resource present in the Amazonian region in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, providing a series of ecosystem services to face problems such as land degradation, deforestation, and climate change. We also seek to provide livelihoods in rural communities, incorporating bamboo to generate income and boost local economies. In Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, the bamboo strategy, we have created a bamboo strategy and a competitive agreement at national level as well as local level to mainstream bamboo restoration and sustainable management. We have increased the resilience to combat climate change of small rural communities and farmers in Colombia, and Ecuador, and Peru through the diversification of bamboo production systems. We are also improving governance of the bamboo sector at the subnational and local levels, promoting the adoption of climate-smart practices with the use of bamboo in the Amazonian regions, as well as supporting livelihoods diversification and income generation. Only in 2021, the project worked with around 3,000 beneficiaries through developing trainings in 85 bamboo field schools, what we call bamboo farmer schools or bamboo field schools, the course trainer of trainers on sustainable bamboo management, and more than 20 training workshops on strengthening skills and abilities to increase the added value of bamboo in construction, fiber fabrics, furniture, handicrafts, and bamboo shelf. In addition, it has contributed to the establishment of 7 sectoral bamboo boards in the 3 countries that allow public-private partnerships between the actors of the sector, the development of 2 national strategies in Colombia and Peru, and a subnational strategy in Ecuador that provides a roadmap for the sustainable development of bamboo. This project is funded by the International Fund for Agricultural Development. We also work with the Spanish Cooperation Agency in Latin America and also more recently also in East Africa. One of the projects I want to introduce is the one we are implementing currently in the Manabí province in Ecuador to support economic productive revitalization of the province of Manabí through sustainable development based on bamboo, including the creation of public-private partnerships. We are supporting. One of the specific objectives of this project is to support the economic productive revitalization of the province of Manabí, also to mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on local economies and the need to seek options for sustainable development that is leading us to look for opportunities by using the available resources in Ecuador. Bamboo is a resource very abundant in the region for thousands of years. Therefore, it provides opportunities to generate truly sustainable development and at the same time an economic revitalization for the vulnerable population. These partnerships are allowing us the commercialization of primary bamboo products, including in their production, supply, processing, and final distribution. A cost analysis of the entire process has been carried out from handling the internal commercialization or export of the processed fiber according to the specifications of potential buyers. Here in this picture, you can see a bamboo treatment facility in the town of El Carmen in the province of Manabí. This is allowing communities to treat their bamboo resources, to commercialize and to make handicrafts, commercialize the use of bamboo also for the construction sector. Now in Ecuador, the construction sector, the bamboo has been identified as a material which is already in the national plans for housing. So we are implementing currently a housing program in Ecuador across the whole country to facilitate the construction of bamboo housing.
Mr. Boyer, can I ask you to wind up in 1 minute?
Yes, very quickly. I want to also conclude with new opportunities that we are identifying in resource mobilization. In China, in the past 3 years, restoration through carbon offset programs, afforestation initiatives have been identified as one of the key opportunities to finance bamboo forests. Lately, for instance, in the province of Zhejiang, around 4 million hectares have been restored, providing livelihood, economy, and environmental benefits. Similarly, in India, the National Bamboo Mission and have scaled up bamboo planting and sustainable management at the national level through afforestation. As a model, INBAR is now working on development a bamboo carbon credit project in Uganda. This would require developing an additional financial mechanism for bamboo restoration and sustainable management across the world. We believe carbon offset programs will be a crucial part of bamboo forests, financial opportunities for bamboo forests. Therefore, I wanted to raise this up because I think it's very important. Lastly, I want to also touch on the gaps that need to be addressed. We believe that awareness raising on the benefits of bamboo and rattan for forest and landscape restoration is crucial to raise financial resources. Also, research on site species matching is very important for us, and it's a challenge that we have on to raise funds, and is a crucial base for developing any project on the field. Capacity building on planting material production.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, but thank you very much.
No problem.
Unfortunately, we have just about 2 minutes. We have 2 questions in the chat, and I wanted to give a chance to. One question is. So there is a question to Ms. Xian and possibly to Boyer. How can INBAR and GFFN work together to generate funds for bamboo-based development in developing countries? And for Mr. Guo, is there a mechanism to access funding for mountain bamboo biodiversity development in the Himalaya region? So if you can take these questions quickly, we just have about a minute left.
Peter, thank you very much. If I may, to take the first question, thanks to Tefara for the question. I think this meeting provides our opportunity to understand the work of the GFFN and the INBAR. Through this exchange, I think both 2 areas of work, both project development and national forest financing strategy within our working area, we can consider collaborate. Forests and bamboo and rattan can be very good coordinated components for projects for ecosystem restoration. So Whenever that INBAR or us have any country that requires such activity, we can see how to join forces together. And for financing strategy as well.
Thank you, Jan. I now want to give the last minute to Mr. Guo.
Thank you, Peter. Actually, as I understand, the question related to whether there's opportunity for funding through the Himalaya mountain funding mechanism. Actually, according to my knowledge, I don't actually have much information on that, but I believe that our multilateral or regional funding opportunities are, open. We are open to all kind of opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me apologize for my poor time management. We have overrun our time, but I think the session has been very good. We have exchanged ideas on how to mobilize financing and especially the opportunities for partnerships and collaboration. So I hope we can build on this and we can follow up our discussions, the issues that we've started raising now. I note especially the importance in terms of research. We need to get financing for research. We need to look at how to do capacity building and ensure integrity of planting materials. So thank you very much for for these ideas, and I think we have a basis to build up our cooperation. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and we have to end our session here. I wish to thank everyone, all the panelists and our technical people for enabling us to have this meeting. Thank you very much to all of you and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.